Welcome to The Other Goal, stories beyond the scoreboard, where sports meets soul.
Welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're getting into a Premier League match that looks simple on paper, but really wasn't. Manchester City's 1-0 win over Wolves, May 2nd, 2025.
That's right. And we've looked at quite a few sources. AP News, BBC Sports, Sky, Goal.com, African News, Bitter and Blue, Haters TV.
Even Reddit's Fantasy PL for the fan angle. We're really trying to unpack everything.
Absolutely, because a 1-0, especially home for City, it often hides a more complex story. This one definitely did. Tactics, a pretty major fan protest, and of course, De Bruyne.
De Bruyne. Yeah, let's start there maybe. His goal was the moment, wasn't it? The deciding factor.
It really was. In a game where City honestly weren't at their absolute fluid best, that piece of individual magic, well, it made all the difference.
But getting that goal, and the whole game really, it was tied up in tactics and other stuff happening off the pitch too.
Exactly. It all connects.
Okay, so let's rewind a bit. The start of the match. Reports suggest Wolves actually came out swinging. Looked pretty good.
They really did. You have to give Vitor Pereira credit. Several reports mention their setup a bold 3-4-2-1.
A 3-4-2-1, okay.
Yeah, and they were direct, brave, with a high line, 4 players pushing up sometimes. It seemed to unsettle City's defense initially.
They weren't just sitting back then.
Not at all. They were committing players forward, wingbacks high, really trying to ask questions.
And they got close, right? I read about a Bellegarde pass to Minetzi around 22 minutes.
Yeah, just needed a cleaner finish. And then Aït Nouri hitting the post?
Oh, yeah. Guardiola had to clear it off the line, apparently.
He did. Sharp work. So City were definitely feeling the heat. It wasn't plain sailing.
And even later, Kuna hit the post, too.
In the second half, yeah. So Wolves had their moments throughout. They were definitely in the game.
Right. But Pep usually finds a way, tactically. His response seemed key to unlocking that De Bruyne goal eventually. What did City do differently?
Well, he went with this, some called it a stopgap, 4-4-2, but strikerless.
Strikerless, okay. Interesting.
Very. And the midfield was super narrow. You had Bernardo Silva, Kovacic, De Bruyne, Gundogan, all sort of crammed centrally. Even the fullbacks were tucking in.
What was the thinking there? Just flood the midfield.
Seems like it. Control that central area, stop Wolves hitting them on the break, which they looked like they wanted to do early on.
And the goal itself, it came from winning the ball back in that area.
Exactly. Andre lost it, Silva and Kovacic were right on him, pressure paid off, and then bang, counterattack.
And Doku played a big part.
Oh, absolutely. His run down the wing, really sharp, created the space, and then that little drop of the shoulder took out 2 defenders, laid it off perfectly for De Bruyne.
Nice. Sounds like Doku had a good game overall.
Yeah, the stats backed it up. 3 successful dribbles, 3 key passes. He was a real outlet for them.
So this ultra-narrow midfield, it wasn't just about winning the ball back, was it? There was a bigger tactical picture.
Well, it's interesting because by packing the middle, City basically pulled Wolves players inwards too.
Ah, okay. Creating space elsewhere.
Exactly, out wide, for someone like Doku. So it was about control, stopping counters, keeping possession, but, and this is a key point several sources made, it kind of blunted their attack in the box.
How so?
Their expected goals, the XG, was only 0.65, which is really low for City, second lowest all season, apparently.
Because there was no Holland. No proper striker making those runs in the box.
Precisely. Less movement, less of a focal point. It felt different to their usual attacking patterns.
So probably not a long-term plan then, more of a temporary fix.
You'd think so. I mean, Holland will come back in, and then there's De Bruyne leaving. His movement is so intelligent, it often makes up for not having a traditional number 9 sometimes.
Yeah, good point.
Okay.
And you saw maybe the limitations with Marmish on the right? Didn't get involved much?
Yeah, only 28 touches, 0 chances created, according to the reports. It just didn't seem to suit him, this specific setup. It highlights that it was probably, a temporary thing.
Which brings us back to De Bruyne again.
Yeah.
Knowing he's leaving,
Yeah.
that goal must have felt, bigger.
Oh, absolutely. You heard it from Guardiola afterwards saying he's irreplaceable, and the players are genuinely sad he's going. It adds a layer of emotion to everything he does now.
And De Bruyne himself said something after the match.
Yeah, basically. I've showed I can still play, or I wouldn't do what I've done in the last 4 or 5 weeks. Classic De Bruyne. Determined to go out on a high.
And his record against Wolves is incredible, isn't it?
It really is. Involved in 11 goals in 10 games against them now. Joint most of any player. Plus, that was his 30th league goal since turning 30. Only 2 City players have scored more after that age.
Wow. And it was his second to last home game. End of an era stuff.
Truly. A remarkable player for the club.
Okay, let's flip back to Wolves. Despite losing, it sounds like their manager, Pereira, wasn't too downbeat.
No, he seemed quite proud, actually. Talked about the performance, the attitude, the commitment.
I saw that quote where he joked about needing the goalposts moved.
Yeah. Which tells you they felt they were maybe a bit unlucky, deserved something from it.
And they were missing Strand Larson. That was a blow.
Yeah, reports mention that. But Matheus Cunha looked lively, didn't he? There's even talk about Man United being interested.
Oh, really? Okay, so some positives for them to take away, despite the result.
Definitely. They showed they could compete.
There was also that VAR check, wasn't there? Aït Nouri on Bernardo Silva. Some controversy there.
Yeah, Jamie Carragher on punditry apparently thought Aït Nouri was lucky to stay on the pitch. Avoided a red.
One of those moments that could have changed the game.
Exactly. Always sparks debate, those calls. Tight margins.
Right, now shifting gears completely. Away from the pitch action. The fan boycott at the start, that felt significant.
It really did. Planned for the first 6 minutes, fans staying away from their seats.
Why exactly? What were the main issues?
It seems to be a buildup of frustration. Ticket price increases, these new Flexi Gold season tickets.
And the feeling that traditional season tickets are harder to get, even with the stadium getting bigger.
That's the core of it, yeah. The claim is it's been 6 years since any new traditional season tickets were actually sold. That's the specific timing for the 6-minute protest.
6 years, wow. Okay, that puts it in perspective.
And it's clearly a real point of friction. But interestingly, Pep Guardiola actually came out and backed the fans.
Did he? What did he say?
Said he supported them and would intercede on their behalf. That's quite a strong statement from the manager.
It really is, taking the fan side publicly like that. And did it have an impact? Was the stadium noticeably empty?
Reports said yes. The Etihad looked half empty at kickoff. Which is, unusual for City, especially for a league game with implications.
Definitely sends a message.
It does. Though it's worth noting not everyone agreed with the protest. Simon Jordan had some pretty harsh words for the fans involved.
Ah, okay. Called them nauseating ingrates. Strong stuff.
Yeah, so definitely different perspectives on that whole situation, as you'd expect.
So, putting it all together, the narrow win, the context, where did this result leave City in the bigger picture of the season?
Well, crucially, it pushed them up to third at that time, gave them a bit of breathing room, 4 points clear of Chelsea in fifth, and closed the gap slightly on Arsenal in second to 3 points. Vital for that Champions League race.
So, still very much in the hunt for top 4.
Absolutely. And, even if Pep feels maybe they could have done better overall this season, they're still fighting for the FA Cup, the Club World Cup.
Which, for most clubs, would be an amazing season.
Exactly. It just shows the standards City operate under now.
And for Wolves, this loss came after a great run, didn't it?
Incredible run. 6 wins in a row before this match. Pereira had really turned things around, pulled them well clear of any relegation worries. So this was like a measure of how far they'd come, testing themselves against the best.
Fair point. And there were a couple of milestones in this game, too, weren't there? For City players.
Yes, Bernardo Silva, his 400th appearance for the club.
Wow, 400.
Yeah, he's the second player this season to hit that mark, after De Bruyne, actually. Shows their longevity and importance.
Incredible consistency. And wasn't there something about Neil Warnock visiting?
Yeah. Apparently, Neil Warnock popped into the City training ground and gave the players a speech. Guardiola mentioned it. Sounded quite funny.
You can only imagine. Probably gave him a bit of a laugh amidst the pressure.
Must have done. Always good to get those little behind-the-scenes nuggets.
Definitely. Okay, let's quickly touch on the fan reactions, particularly from the fantasy football world. Reddit's Fantasy PL. What were they saying?
Well, no surprise, Haaland being on the bench was huge. Lots of chat about his fitness, when he'd play next, especially with finals coming up.
Standard FPL panic. And Marmish, who started instead. Mixed feelings.
Yeah, it seemed like some FPL managers were thinking of ditching him. If Haaland's coming back, maybe Marmish's minutes dry up. Even if Haaland draws defenders away, his performance didn't exactly scream, keep me.
But those who captained De Bruyne were happy.
Oh, yeah. Big relief and points for them. Justified the armband pick, for sure.
Yes.
Showed his value right to the end.
Was there frustration about anyone else? Foden, maybe. Not starting again.
Definitely. Foden's a popular player, fantasy-wise, and just generally. People are wondering why he's not getting consistent starts. That came up quite a bit.
And Savinho, too. He was a big FPL pick earlier, wasn't he?
He was, and now barely getting minutes. So yeah, some frustration, some sort of resigned humor about that on the threads.
And just general chat about Gundogan and others. The usual match day reactions.
Exactly. The usual mix of praise, criticism, tactical debates. FPL forums are always a great pulse check for that immediate fan reaction.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this deep dive up. What are the main things to take away from this City 1-0 win over Wolves?
Well, first, obviously, De Bruyne's quality shining through to win a tight game. That moment was key.
Right.
Second, Pep's tactical flexibility, that narrow strikerless shape, it did the job defensively and nullified Wolves' early threat, even if it cost them some attacking edge.
Makes sense.
Third, you can't ignore the fan boycott. It's a clear signal about those ongoing tensions over ticket prices and access. A really visible moment.
Yeah, that felt important.
And finally, credit to Wolves. Despite losing, they showed they're a well-coached team under Pereira, capable of pushing top sides close.
So this one game kind of encapsulated quite a few storylines for City, didn't it?
It really did. You had the tactics, the fan relationship piece, and this overlay of De Bruyne's farewell tour, basically, all wrapped up in 90 minutes.
Yeah, it leaves you thinking, doesn't it? About, where Pep takes the team tactically next season, especially post De Bruyne. And also how the club navigates that relationship with the fans.
Absolutely. And maybe the provocative thought is, how much does losing a player, not just of De Bruyne's quality, but his influence and leadership change the whole dynamic? Will City need not just a tactical shift, but maybe a shift in personality on the pitch too? Something to keep an eye on for sure.
You've been listening to The Other Goal, because the greatest victories don't always happen on the field.